You might look at the pitch of this movie if you're a fantasy fan, and then look at the poster and think, this seems like a pretty confident fantasy dragon epic, right? We've seen stories along those lines. But don't let your perceptions get in the way of the actual attribution of the project. I mean, maybe this will be quite competent. I don't know. It's a bit of a mix from at least who I have in mind on this point. This is coming from ITN Movies / Distribution. They kind of refer to themselves in different ways, but ITN fundamentally. And I've seen a couple of their projects at this point. I've covered a bunch. They vary in quality. Some of the works have done well, but they tend to bank on the lower budget fare. And some projects definitely show it. I mean, for example, there's like those Rocket Hunter movies that came from them, or the Devil's Fairground, I think was another one I covered a while back. Much obvious lower budget fare. But I try and be fair again, understanding that, filmmakers emerge, perhaps not having the resources everybody does, and you might have a filmmaker with a passion of a story they want to tell. So I'll try and judge this fairly. I have a I have a trailer pulled up, and this film, I believe, is accessible to watch for anybody who chooses to after watching this trailer. I might try it out. It's available on YouTube, in fact, through the V Movies channel, I believe. They're carrying it. This is what says you're not familiar with Dragon Fury on the IMDb synopsis. A team of experts travels deep into the mountains to find a dangerous creature. That creature obviously being a dragon. So pretty straightforward fantasy pitch, but maybe, we'll judge its quality fairly. I have a trailer pulled up, so let's go ahead and witness and see which side of the aisle, as far as ITN goes, that this floats on. Could be good, could be
Thank you for coming, and
a trial. We'll see.
You've been kept somewhat in the dark. This area used to be a nuclear weapons facility. However, a consequence of this is that the whole area should be devoid of all wildlife.
But there have been sightings here.
Spoiler alert, it's not.
To withstand radiation exposure, then it could be of great scientific interest to us.
A winged creature.
Well, it's set in the modern world, bringing back like fantasy, lore, mixing two different times together. I've seen stories like this within the lower budget field. So far, I think some parts of it are filmed pretty well. It has the appearance and some measures of trying to appear as a more expensive feature. The shots on the VFX look pretty good. Some of the shots with VFX, like that last one, not that one. Well, you can tell the budgetary constraints. I will say this, because I try to judge things fairly. There's clear points where you can tell, a filmmaker does what they can, right? And maybe, again, for somebody, this was a passion project, so I try and handle these as fairly as I can. While the dragon, in some parts, is absolutely not convincing, that one shot, at least at the end with the fire, I thought was actually pretty good. I was able to forgive the fact that there's a bit of a low-scale VFX budget because of the intensity of the flame shot. I thought that was actually quite good on the human emotion side. The shots with the characters running around, which are obviously easier to film, they probably cost much less, obviously no VFX needed or necessary, they're staged similar to other fare that I've seen that's more professionally recognizable, right? Maybe done by a bigger studio. They mimic that type of structure and presentation in, I think, a very effective manner. So there's some promise to the craft here. As I'm covering this, and I'm definitely considering giving the first one a look, because maybe it'll give me a chance to review it as well, because there's a second entry that's released. So I'm seeing this as an opportunity to look at lower budget work and perhaps see some up-and-coming talents and what they have to offer with working with what they have. And I think, it may not be the most productive movie for realization's sake in regard to the dragon, but it's working within the limitations of what it has. And obviously, at least for me, what it's doing on a presentation level, it's trying to encompass as wide of a field as possible of capability. And I think when it comes to VFX-free portrayals, it's realized well. I think the setting is good. Although I will say the foundation to, while I think it's fine that the idea of, again, marrying the fantasy world and in time to the modern age of two prehistoric creatures coming back to life. I've seen that type of energy before, especially among scientific facilities gone awry. Jurassic Shark, ring a bell? Remember that one? The oil rigging, or the oil drilling? You drilled too deep. Oh no, Megalodon. Jurassic Shark, if you've never seen it, most comical film you ever watched. It's not a... it's an experience in itself. It's free on Tubi. And again, it's free on Tubi. Emphasis on free for a reason. You'll like it. Not for the reasons you might be wanting to ideally. Again, I try to be fair in the scope of what I cover in regards to lower budget fare, and I do think Dragon Fury, while limited on its VFX presentation, boasts some merits in the execution of craft that do mimic other more recognizable features among larger studios that I could see. I see room for growth, given a more substantial resource count. On a second picture with entry number 2, which I plan to cover, I'll try this out. Again, it's accessible on the V Movies channel if you want to watch it, so it's free. I think I'll be able to give a good fair take. We'll see what I think about it. Hopefully I'll be able to speak to its credits. Again, I like to do that for perhaps developing talent. What are your thoughts on a first trailer? Perhaps some of you are you're being too nice on this. Again, I try to be fair in both my praise and my criticism, especially when I can tell there's a limitation in resources. And I do think there's some talent here to boast about. Small aspects, but good ones. I would love to hear your input or feedback down below. Maybe you're kind of along my lines. You're you don't like to be necessarily a negative Nelly. It's not where you see idealized reason to avoid that. Or where in other aspects perhaps it's a little more warranted. And you see a place where positivity perhaps is more appealing and deserved. Let me know what your thoughts are down below on Dragon Fury. Again, I'll try to give a fair take when I look at the second movie, and I'll be able to give you my estimation of thoughts with the first entry, what I'm covering right now. From what I can tell, again, there's certain measures that you can tell it's limited in where it can go. But what it's trying to do in certain parts, in regard to the VFX-free imagery and positioning of scenes that mimic other types of fantasy fare, or fantasy adaptation to the modern age, I think it boasts confidence. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.